Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith. Welcome to the Grow Tent, everybody. You have found the best one channel on YouTube, man. The place where we simplify the approach for you so everyone can learn how to grow. We make it so simple, even I can understand. So I'm going to listen and learn right now.
What's going on, everybody? We got a banger of an episode for you today. Today we're going to be talking about what you can do in emergency situations in your garden. Your power goes out, that your furnace, your heat, etc., your AC, what you can do to keep your garden from dying in these kind of emergency situations. But first, of course, it's the intro. It's everybody's favorite part. You know, we got to pay the bills. Guys, remember this channel is sponsored by Mars Hydro right there. Bloop, 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 spinning around. If you're looking for a light or grow tent, any kind of stuff like that, we got a discount code in the bottom. It's just WTTGT. And put it all in capital letters, and you get an extra discount on some really quality stuff. I wouldn't recommend it if I didn't use it myself, and it works extremely well. All right, what do we got up next? Guys, if you haven't joined our Patreon, join the Patreon. We got the biggest C word plant Patreon there is on the planet. It's the biggest one there is. It's bigger than any other Patreon there is, and there's a good reason for it. Go check it out. You'll see why. It's a fantastic place. We got some great growers on there in our Discord, and just go check it out. Links to it in the video description below. Guys, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And remember to watch the full video. It helps out a ton. What else? I want to give a big, huge shout out to my buddy Seed to Stone that shouted me out in his video that he put up last week. That was like, I've been a follower of his channel for a long time, and to see him shout out my channel was pretty awesome. So thank you for that, Seed to Stone. What else we got going on, guys? If you're looking for any merch, you can find our merch store at WTTGT.com. We got some of the coolest looking tent slaps in the game, and you guys should check them out. But I think that'll do it for today. If you don't want to see me mess with snakes, you can find it at Spartan Pythons and Tarantulas. Usually there's a link to it in the video description. But let's get today's episode going. So man, got that done in like 2 minutes. Let's go. Woo! Just this hat here. My goodness, get your stuff together, GT. All right, guys. What you can do to save your plants in case emergencies happen. I get this question quite often, I would say, in my emails or my Patreon message. Like, hey, GT, my power's out. What do I do? And there's going to be a couple different rules depending on how you're growing. If you're growing in hydro versus you're growing in soil, we're going to have some different things we need to do. If if our lights go out versus our heat or our air conditioner go out, there's certain things that we can do to help our gardens stay alive until we can get those engineering systems fixed. So we're going to talk about those today. We're going to break it out between hydro and soil because there's a couple different things we need to do with different, because they run differently. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about soils, of course, because most new growers grow in soil. So that's what we're going to talk about first. So if your grow lights go out, what can you do? Well, there's a few different things you can do. So if your grow lights go out because your power went out, or maybe the light just went out, which is rare these days, but it can happen. But let's say your power goes out, and then you're like, well, now what do I do, GT? Because I get this email a ton, and they're like, it was out for 2 hours last night, and the power came back on. Guys, any kind of short interruptions in your light cycle, it's not a big deal. Man, I need to iron this shirt next time. I actually just took it off the shelf. I was like, I don't have this sour grape shirt myself yet. I need one. Should have ironed it before the video, but hey, we're here now. So our lights went out for 1, 5, 6 hours. Guys, zero big deal. Your power goes out, storms happen, whatever, and it comes back on in a few hours, no big deal. Now, if it's one of these like crazy winter storms where the power's been out for like 2 days, that is a big deal. It can be a big deal. So what we're going to do in cases like that is, if we're not tied down with scrogs, let's say our plants are still in veg and they're still mobile, you can actually just bring them out of your grow room and set them by a window, and then as it's, they maintain a little bit of light, something where they still get their day and night cycle, you're golden. Hopefully your power's not out for a freaking week. I mean, I know it happens sometimes, but hopefully not. But even if it's down for a few days, just simply taking your plants out of there, or maybe just opening the window in your grow room and leaving your tents unzipped so there is some light and there's still some kind of day and night cycle. Just those little tips, and you're fine. If you're, just think, if you turned your lights power down for a couple days, would it really matter? No, that'd be just fine. So our first things we got to do is freaking calm down and relax, and focus, and just really pay attention to. As long as the plant's getting some amount of light, it's still getting its day and night cycle, you're going to be just fine. Now, let's say you are scrogged down. You can't move your plants. There's no windows in your grow room, like my grow room. It doesn't have any windows. And my phone is vibrating. My grow room doesn't have any windows. So you're like, well, GT, what can I do now? And I can tell you, like a camping lantern, that kind of thing, that will work. It will 100% work, as long, because these plants, they want complete darkness. And if you give them anything other than complete darkness, to them, that's daytime. So you can literally take like the camping lantern, like the things you would take on camping, like a little Coleman lantern you can buy. Not the fire one, just a light. Do you know what I mean? Go crazy with this. Just a light, just some kind of light. As long as they're getting some kind of light, to them, that's daytime. Go in there at nighttime and turn it off. And if you get the one that's rechargeable, so that you don't have, it's LED and rechargeable, you don't ever have to put batteries in it. And you can literally just turn it on and off, and your light problem is solved. Now, a lot of times whenever these power outages, and you would do the same thing if you were in hydro, because obviously those plants are not mobile. You can't have a mobile plant while it's sitting in its, its hydro bucket. So you would just do the Coleman lighter. Oh, come on. Turn off, vibrate. Got it. That was actually an order for the merch store coming in, so thank you very much, whoever that was. I appreciate it. We had over 300 merch orders on 420. So as you can see, our stock of shirts back there is almost completely depleted. So thank you again for everybody. So if you were in hydro, you obviously couldn't move the plant. So you would do the little Coleman lighter. Any kind of light will work, guys. I don't care if it's window light. I don't care if it's, campfire, little torch lights, whatever. Any kind of light will work, will sustain you to get you through this until you get back up. Back with power. All right, so let's talk about part 2 coming up now. And we're back, everybody. Okay, so part 2. So a lot of times whenever we do have power outages, now I know there's, the freaky ones with down tree limbs or whatever in the springtime, but a lot of times it's during the winter whenever we have these really serious power outages. And whenever we have these power outages, the temps are going to start dropping. These plants don't like cold temperatures. Matter of fact, as soon as it really starts getting into the 50s, it stops their growth. So it really stunts them whenever they're exposed to cold temperatures. And if you get too cold, they die. And this this has a couple different problems for if you're in hydro or if you're in soil. The first thing I'm going to do if I've got a power outage, it's winter. I grow in a basement. Now it does stay warm because I have all the grow lights going throughout the entire time of the day and night, because I have them all on different cycles, so it maintains my temperature really well. But the first thing I'm going to do is, if my power goes out, my basement floor gets really cold really fast. So actually the first thing I do is I go and get the plants off of the floor. So I just have like styrofoam blocks. You can get plastic, brick, wood, whatever you want. And I just get them up off the concrete floor. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. The styrofoam blocks I have are like little 3-inch discs. And if the power goes out in the wintertime, I know I have about 4 or 5 hours before the temps really start dropping. And I don't want the plants pulling up that coldness off the floor. So the first thing I'm going to do is get those plants off of the floor and away from the concrete. And it will actually, they'll maintain their heat way better without the cold concrete floor drawing the warmth out of the soil. So that's number 1. Number 2, let's say we're talking about, it's going to be one of these longer things where we don't know how long we're going to be out of power. Heat conservation for what you have in the tent is vitally important. So I have moving blankets, and we had a storm where our power was out for 4 days, and it sucked. And so I actually had moving blankets wrapped around. Moving blankets are just really thick blankets. They're not very thick. They're dense, I guess would say be the better word. They're dense. So because you don't want your furniture banging into each other, so it prevents them from getting scratches. So it's nice, dense material, and it's not thick. So you can have a bunch of them stored somewhere. They don't take up a ton of room like a big comforter would. and I use these moving blankets, and I will just drape them over the top, and then I will close most of the vents on my tent because I want to preserve that temperature that is in there. And then on top of it, I will turn down my fans on top of it. You're like, ET, this sounds like a recipe for powdery mildew. It might be, but I tell you what, it gets too cold in your tent, you're not going to have to worry about powdery mildew because everything in your tent's going to die if you let it get too cold for power outage for, greater than a few days at a time. So perspective is what we're looking for, is, don't kill your plant because you were trying to prevent powdery mildew, which is an extremely fixable thing. You know what I mean? So that's kind of our number 2 with heat. And it's a really big deal. You're like, all right, well, if I'm in hydro, what am I supposed to be doing? Because I know it's hard. You can still get your plants up off the floor. You can still do that kind of stuff. The thing you have to worry about is if if it's going to be cold for a long period of time, is your water. And luckily for all of us, usually our water systems don't go out, so we can still get warm water, cold water, whatever kind of water temperature we need to adjust for the plants. It's a little bit more work, but you can still do it because usually our water doesn't go out. So we can still get have access to warm water, cold water, whatever we need. So luckily there with the hydro system, it's not too big of a deal. All right, let's talk about part 3 and what else we need to do. All right, so this is part 3, guys, and this is going to focus just slightly more on a hydro thing that you might not be thinking about. But whenever your power goes out, your air stones and your bubblers, they're also going to go out. And if there's no oxygen in that water, your plants are quickly going to drown their roots. Oh, my nose, always so itchy whenever I'm doing this. Everybody's like, oh man, GT, no wonder he's so excited all the time. He's always messing with his nose. I promise you, it's not that anymore. I mean, 20 years ago, that would probably been the case, but not anymore, man. But, all right, so if your air stone goes out, what can you do? So the first thing I'm going to do if I'm in my hydro system is I'm going to drop my water level by about half of what I have in my containers. What that's going to do is it's going to expose more of the roots to oxygen, with less of it being in the stagnant water that is now rapidly depleting from oxygen because our air stone is no longer pumping. There's a couple things you can do here in this instant. If you can have battery backup, air bubblers, and they actually just run on batteries, and you can get rechargeable batteries for it at that. Now, I don't know how many they're able to run, but they do pump air into the line, so it is a viable option. The number 2 option is a lot cheaper. Is you can actually just get your reservoir, pump your water back out of it, and then hand pump the water back in, with like an actual hand pump that you would like the race car drivers would get their fuel out of a 55-gallon drum. You can use those same kind of pumps, and that will super oxygenate that water because of the what you're doing to pump that water back in there. It oxygenates your water back up. A lot of work. You have to do it. You have to keep doing it. But if it means keeping your plants alive, it will work till you get your power back, or till you go out and you get some kind of air or battery powered air something, so you can get your air pumps kicked back on again. The end all be all though fix to this is a generator. So you can get the like those big style like home generators where they can power your home back up in an event of an emergency, but that's really pricey. Those things are like $5,000 to $8,000, I think, is what I got quoted on the one I was looking at, and I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet because that's really expensive. But you gotta get permits, and they got to pour concrete pads for it, and all this kind of stuff. And you actually have to have a permit because it ties into your your main breaker box. But there is other options. You can get like the portable generators, like Honda makes super quiet ones. And let's say you've got one tent, like one of their little 2000 extremely quiet. They barely burn any gas, and they can keep your tents up and running for a substantial amount of time with minimal amounts of gas. And they're great to use. You can literally just run the put it outside, run the cord down into your basement through a window, through however you want to get it there, and then just plug that into a GFI little plug adapter, and then you can run all your stuff in there. That's kind of the end all be all. If you're really nervous about your tents or you're living in an area where power goes out quite often, a small portable generator is a fantastic investment, especially so you don't have to spend the big money on one of the big generators. Or, if you really have a lot of money, you can get the solar panels on top of your house. You can get the battery wall bank of power stored up, and those are generally run about $20,000, depending on how big of a wall bank of electricity that you want. But then you can start selling your power back to the power company. You don't even have to worry about ever running out of electricity or power again. But those are some of the things. So if you were wanting to prep, like make a little prep kit for if you were going to run out of stuff or your power is going to go out. So battery backup, lights, air pumps, any of that kind of stuff. It's always fancy. It's always fantastic to have those Coleman lantern lights and stuff like that. Some kind of small portable generator, some gas for it to run, and literally some moving blankets. With these small little emergency kits, you can really prevent a catastrophic event from happening in your garden, and it'll really save the day with this tiny amount of prep work. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I know I get a ton of questions about it in my emails and on the Patreon, so I hope this addresses some of your concerns and lets you relax, calm down, and focus a little bit more. All right, I'll see you guys next time. GT! Out.